Hi, everybody. My name is Gayatri, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about life-work harmony and staying motivated. Let's talk a little bit about what this pandemic has done to us during this time, and let's hope you can actually start seeing my screen. I do have a presentation for you guys. So just a little bit quickly about myself. I live in New York City, and I work at Uber right now. I work as a senior engineering manager here, where I'm responsible for running their reliability platform teams. And in my free time, I am a huge believer in early education for young girls. You also see a picture of two of my kids here. And during the pandemic, I picked up a new skill set that was indoor gardening. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about 5 stages of work from home during pandemic. We're going to talk about what's even work-life harmony. Is that something that's possible? And primarily, we're going to talk about what does it mean to stay motivated. So going in right into our first, so everybody remembers that, when we started off as the first stage of pandemic, it just seems like such a great time. Everybody was free. We said, okay, I could get out of bed at any time. I could start working at any time. And work from home just seemed like such a fun thing to do. As we went through the pandemic, we realized that, hey, you know what, all the family and the friends time that we used to not be able to share, we have the opportunity now to do. You could actually meet your family and actually have lunch and breakfast, and you just meet them in person during the day. So it was a lot of fun. The third stage during the pandemic is when we realize that the reality starts sinking in. You realize that it's not as easy as you thought it was. This is the time now where you actually have to start, reality sinks in. You know that if you are a parent, you also have to work from home, but you're also a parent. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to take care of outside of just working. And then you start working around the clock. You are responsible for running your day-to-day. You are responsible for running your afternoons. You're responsible for taking care of the kids. You're responsible just for your own mental health. And the one thing that you'll end up doing is work around the clock. And then finally, the last stage is, you really want to start practicing social distancing truly, right? Not just with yourself, but then also with your family and friends. And you just want to stay away from everybody. So let's talk a little bit about why do we need this harmony, right? And is harmony a word, and is it even something that is possible today? It's very easy to talk about, let's try to do a work-life balance, but in my mind, let's not fool ourselves. There's nothing called as balance. I guess I just think that, we all have to start getting used to the fact that work and life and everything else that happens outside of it is all part of the same day. A couple things that we really need to focus on, and why do we need the harmony here, is it enhances the ability to be present, right? And it improves your relationship. And at the end of the day, it all just comes down to, bringing happiness and fulfillment to everything that you do. So the one thing that I do want to talk about is, staying motivated, and just pulling this back into the conversation. I do feel like, you're really never truly satisfied by work until you're satisfied by life, right? So we all have to just pause a little bit and think about what really motivates you. So let's talk a little bit about what helped me during the pandemic. I have 2 kids, as I said in my introduction, and it wasn't as easy as I thought, just being able to work from home. I started off this thinking, oh, it's very easy. I'm working from home. I spend more time with them, and I quickly realized that it wasn't helping. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about, a few strategies that work for me. And I hope that you can, if anything you take away from today's conversation, I would love for you to take a couple things from here. So the way I dealt in the last year and a half was, these 5 things. So I, first of all, just decluttered my physical and my mental space. I found a little space for myself. I was able to create a small office and, just make it my own space. I created work and communication agreements with my team and household. I just wanted to be very upfront with my teams and the engineers and the folks that actually work on my team, as well as with just folks at home. I started creating themes, and I really took my days off seriously. And finally, I carved out some me time. So let's just delve into what each of these means, right? Declutter your physical and your mental space. So if everybody, if you guys haven't seen this, you should look at Marie Kondo on Netflix, right? She talks a lot about what does it mean to declutter, and what does it really mean to keep things that make you happy. So just starts from there, and you'll realize that it's really a system, right? And the one thing that I did is I created a little space for myself. I created a little space for just writing my thoughts, and just create and carve that space off from your other space at home. The second thing that I find very important was really creating the communication agreement, right? Which is, I have a shared Google Calendar with my team. We talk about, we're very transparent about our work schedules. We talk about breaks. Sometimes I also just add in my lunch times into my calendar, and I make it public so that everybody can see it. Likewise, I also have a shared Google Calendar with my family. What that means is, we are able to talk and be very upfront and be transparent about, how do we plan our day? How do we plan our weekends? And then finally, we came up with shared team conventions. And what does a shared team convention mean? Really just means talking about, what does it mean? When do we log in? When do we log off? How do we do on-calls? Who logs in and how do we manage vacations? When do we all start our day? How do we do team hangs? How do we get coffee now in a virtual situation? The third step that I really do is I started creating themes. And the way I did themes was, I would block calendars and assign things that are personal and put that on my calendar. But I will also assign things that are one-on-ones. I'll assign some time for creative work. I'll just assign something, for example, for school pickups, right? So I just started creating themes on my calendar and started sticking to it throughout the pandemic. And I just feel like this is something that I will continue to do after all of this. So for example, my most productive time for me is early mornings and late evenings. So I just ensure that I don't have any meetings during that time, and I use that time to be able to think creatively. I just make Tuesdays my one-on-one days with my teams. Mondays and Fridays are my most creative days. And Wednesday and Thursday are project operation days. And this kind of just gives me a system on being able to manage my day and my week. And finally creating the me time. This is something that I was important before getting into this pandemic, but then in the last year and a half, I feel like this has become even more important. Just ensuring that, and first of all, recognizing the fact that self-care is not selfish, right? You can be a 10,000% more effective if you are able to take care of yourself. And the way I do it is I mark me times on my calendar, and I really, really ensure that I take the time off seriously. In the last year and a half, I've picked up a couple new hobbies. I've started tending to my plants more closely. I've started doing indoor gardening. I've also rekindled an old hobby, but then just ensure that you are carving out time for yourself. And when you carve that time out, you are doing it by pausing and being very, very you being very careful and very you give that time for yourself. And then, like I said, taking the day off seriously. This was something that I used to in the past, but then now I just take it to the next level. I really want to plan my days off very carefully. I want to be sure that, if it's a vacation or if it's just going and having coffee or just meeting a friend, I ensure that I am taking those days seriously. And I just do not take days off without planning for what I'm going to do on those days. A few things that, a few ideas that you could think of is, you could just pick up an Airbnb, you go to Airbnb experiences and just learn a new skill or get a new experience, or just go outside and, meet a friend now that, people are starting to get out. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, as we talk about work from home and thinking about, where do we want to go and how do we manage our day to day, another thing that's super important is, how do you create opportunities for yourself? And do you really like what you're doing? And, how do you create those opportunities and stay motivated at work? So this is something that I would just advise and suggest everybody to do, once a year, just being very careful and thinking about, are you excited about what you're doing or not? But a couple strategies that I've used to create opportunities, both for myself as well as for my team members, are here. I've listed them down here. I kind of engage others in my journey of self improvement. I'm very explicit about new skill sets that I want to be able to pick up. I'm very explicit about my own weaknesses, and also very explicit about my strengths. I'm very transparent, and with transparency comes the fact that you become vulnerable, and ability to just go outside your comfort zone and rekindle relationships. How do I stay motivated? I kind of wanted to just jump to the fact of what does it mean to be motivated. A couple things that I do when it comes to being motivated are here, right? I believe greatly in setting goals, but then I also realize that setting smaller goals helps a lot, and just the ability to strike them off of your to-do list just gives an immense amount of satisfaction. So setting small daily goals, like, what does it mean for work, life, health, relationships, just setting those out and then writing it down just helped me greatly. Another reason how I try to stay motivated is I kind of remind myself as to why I do what I do. I ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this job? Or, why am I here at Uber? And what am I building? Are these really aligning to my both long-term and short-term goals? And reassessing these, in every year is not really a bad thing, and it just helps you remind yourself as to why you do what you do. And finally, I would just say, stay social, right? Try to be connected as possible. In the last 6 months, it was much harder to get out and meet people. But then now, I guess, people are out there more. Everybody is getting vaccinated. Just remember, that it's okay. And, just rekindle all those relationships that you were having virtually and make the impact and the effort to be able to meet them. The one last thing that I want to leave you guys all off with is the fact about, I only feel motivated when I build new things, right? This is a very common myth wherein if I am not building a new thing at work or I am not doing something new, it no longer motivates me. And the one thing that I would encourage all of you to think is, how do you define new, right? And new is basically, it just could be, you could innovate on your day to day, and you could innovate in just general in your life, right? So I would really coin innovation as something that's useful, but then also a novel. And I really want to push all of you to think about, moving beyond either or and really thinking about both and, right? And just give yourself credit on being able to, build newer things or just innovate on a day to day, like just, building a new platform or taking on a new role is not just new, right? Being in the pandemic and being able to work during the pandemic is also a new skill set that you picked up. I would also push all of you to think about what does it mean to innovate at work, right? Especially when everybody is not in the same room, and you still have to be thinking about new ways to connect and collaborate. Remember that innovating is not just about getting together and writing on a whiteboard. It could either be a process innovation, it could be making your life simple at work, or it just could be a small change in the way you in your product so that your customers interact with your product better. I kind of want to leave you all with the final fact that innovation is innovation, and staying motivated during the pandemic is something that you continue to just double down and focus. I just feel like give yourselves the opportunities, be more open to and more forgiving to yourself, and then really just seize the day and seize every moment. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, thank you very much for attending, and good luck.